utilize all that KW has to provide. And here's a prime example that Sonia on a consistent basis is providing you with the training to help you elevate your business. So thank you again, Sonia. Really appreciate you and obviously the value that you're providing to our agents. All right, let's go ahead and continue with our next. So I know we've been getting a lot of questions in regards to the 3D Matterport. So I like in connections with Jennifer, our new appointed OP and Manny, they mentioned something last week in regards to that they have connections with the Matterport 3D virtual tour. So we have the gal that's going to introduce you and give you some insights on how that works. So that's Megan. Is Megan on the call? Megan?
Sorry, I muted myself. I feel like that's like the number one mistake we all make when being introduced. Thank you so much, Simon.
My pleasure.
Yes, I am part of Forward Living Media, which is our in-house media team for Keller Williams Forward Living. And as you were saying, we do have 3D Matterport cameras and are actively doing Matterport tours throughout everything. We're actually on one right now for one of our Calabasas agents. But with that being said, in terms of what services we are also offering.
I think you here. Hey, Nat, can you unmute her, please? Sorry, you were muted for some reason. I don't have. You're back on again.
Okay, great. In addition to 3D Matterport tours, we are also doing videos, drone videos, photography, virtual staging, as well as single property websites. So we are offering all of our services that we would normally offer for any of the agents at KW Beach Cities that have used us before. You can, they're well aware of the fact that our term.
I think it's where she is.
Yeah, it's probably the location she's at, which is probably in Calabasas. It's very hilly there. I'm not sure. Hey, Nat, can you try to unmute her again, please? Nat, are you in? Okay, there she is. Sorry, you keep coming.
I know it's my service. I'm sure it's my service. But I'll put our website in the chat, and that way you guys can sort of check out what we're doing. And I'll send over some samples. I'll get an email list from Jen and send over samples of everything that we're able to offer. Pricing and everything will also be included on our website, as well as the flyer that I'll send out to all of the agents. Please reach out to me. I'll put my email in the chat as well. Please reach out to me if you have any questions or need anything. We are fully we're following safety protocols to the max. So we're coming in with masks, booties, gloves, hand sanitizer, Lysol wipes, everything that you need. Yeah, we're still full throttle in service. So let us know if you need anything.
Wonderful. Appreciate that.
Awesome. Thank you.
So we'll be looking out for the information flyer campaign. If any of you need the services of a 3D virtual, Megan will be one of the sources that we can provide. So thank you, Manny and Jennifer, for providing that information. So is the next? Yes.
Do they offer drone?
Yes, they do.
Yes, full drone services.
Okay.
Yeah, okay. Thank you, Jennifer. All right, so the concierge, I'm so excited, guys, on finally that we're going to be launching something. So it's been something that we've been talking about, with our competitors out there. And ultimately, it's something that we're bringing to you and to the table. Again, super excited of what the new OPs are going to be providing value and avenue to really generate additional business for you. So we have the KW concierge, and I know I'm not going to say her name correctly, but I think it's Ella or Isla. Am I saying it right, Jennifer?
It's Isla.
Ella. She's with Zoom Casa LLC. Is she on the call?
I'm here.
Yeah, she is. There she is. Welcome. So talk to us, and I apologize if I didn't say your name correctly, but she's going to provide you with some additional information on the KW Concierge Package Program, guys.
Yes, thank you.
Before you're going to go ahead and really go drive, drill deeper into what it is, and I'm not sure if you want to also open your camera in case you can. If not, it's okay too. But just to give you guys the background for a second, this is a big deal for you guys, and I want you to know why it's a big deal, and I want you to understand how significant this service is and how it can change your business moving forward forever in many, many, many ways. And here is why. And I want to do this intro just to make it easier for what is it? Oh, okay. Okay, that's fine. She can screen share. Basically, this service was born, the KW service was born as a result from the amazing, great competition out there. We always appreciate competition. We recognize, we thrive in competition in times of whatever. So we came up with this partnership with Zoom Casa. That's a third party, that's a independent company. We white label them as the KW Concierge. You can promote them as KW South Bay Concierge, etc. Basically, what it is, and Isla's going to shed more light on what they do and how they support and what kind of services right now they're offering. But technically, what it is they upfront the entire cost, whatever you can imagine, from the very basic small repair or whatever element of house preparation of your seller, all the way to even to flip a property if need to. And also there's no really limit to what you can offer to your clients. And of course, the house needs to be approved to be fit the criteria of liquidity and what have you. But Ala's going to share more on that one. My point is that that's a service that right now the competition is offering or might offering, even though not really, because Campus, for example, they shut down 3 weeks ago their concierge, so their agents don't have concierge anymore. They cannot open it to their people. We can through our partnership. So that's one big key element. And of course, the seller don't pay only until close of escrow. So that's huge. Number one. Number two is we right now through our partnership offering services that are relevant. And Alice is going to tell you more about the decontamination service that they're offering to any homeowner out there. So you can reach out to any person. It doesn't matter if they sell or don't sell. You can offer a massive right now in your farms, in your networks, in your referrals, in your whatever you can imagine. Reach out and say, hey, I have something I want to share with you, I want to offer you, etc., etc. So this is huge. This is significant. And can you drop the screen share for a second? I also two things to share, and also Jen's going to share. One of my agents, I'm using this across the board with my Calabasas, West Side, Long Beach offices, or whatever. One guy, and I'm going to bring him. We'll do like a session, like one-on-one with you guys. He can, share exactly what he's doing, whatever, what worked, what didn't work. Keith Koss, one of my agents in Long Beach, crushing it. I think he got his 7th listing just before the pandemic hit, and only using the concierge. And the guy was licensed forever, never really used his license, started to practice maybe a year ago, and I'm like, I'm gonna do this is my focus on the concierge and only listings, crushing it. And Jen, who do you have using that?
So a lot of people asked for an example. When I was sharing people in Calabasas, it was difficult because they didn't know those agents as well. So Jason Lowry, who you guys should know, or probably know, he uses them, and he's closed a few deals with them as well. So I thought that would be a good contact for you guys because he is here in the South Bay, along with David Coe is one of the ones that uses it as well. And Barbara McNeil has asked them for services as well. So just if you're looking for the local area and someone to talk to, those are the ones that are actively using it in our area.
Awesome. Were you saying something? We can't hear you.
Okay.
Oh, I thought you had additional information.
Okay.
There you are.
Ida, go ahead, Ida.
So thank you so much for that, for the intro. You covered a lot of the important aspects of the program and why it's so valuable. I'll pop up the screen just once more so you can see just a little promo flyer, and there's a couple other flyers that I'll share in just a moment as well. Basically, we're Zoom Casa. We power the concierge program that you all have access to as KW agents. So this is a solution that's designed and available to you all because you're KW agents affiliated with the Forward Living Group. This isn't available to every agent. It's not available to independent agents. Something that you bring to the table as a KW agent that you can really reiterate and back up your value. And our goal is really to be that turnkey solution for you and your clients in order to help them get from point A, where their home is now, to point B, where their home needs to be to get a higher price and sell faster. And we offer you the support to help you curate those improvements, make the right decisions in terms of home preparations to help your client get prepared. And that's drastically different than what the competition is doing, because you have your Compass and your CB Real Vitalize programs. Both programs function almost as cash advance programs for clients, meaning that they don't offer the design support, they don't offer professional project management, and all of the responsibility falls on the agent to make those decisions for their client and source the vendors, etc. So we're really arming you with a full service solution that not only levels the playing field, but provides you with the solution that's a step above the rest and is really going to be that full service bespoke offering that's tailored to your client's needs. And many also mentioned some of the new programs that we've launched just due to COVID-19 to help you stay active and stay engaged. And I'll share one of those flyers on the screen. We have our refresher program, which is a program designed to give your clients that design support while they're sitting at home. So this is a chance for them to get a design consultation from our team, curate a project tailored to their home that will ultimately improve their home's value, but it's a project that they can do on their own with designer selected materials. So this is really a way for you to engage with clients, past clients, family and friends, offer them something, engage with them, talk to them about something that isn't just the news or the market, something that's thoughtful and tailored to current events and current times, helping them ultimately improve their home's value and also take on maybe a new project, while they're sitting at home. Similarly, many mentioned our decontamination program, which is also available now. I'll pull that up as well. We are offering professional vapor aerial decontamination to help your buyers, sellers, family, friends, whoever, go the extra mile to preserve their home and ensure that it's a safe environment. This is great for a seller who wants to ease potential buyer's mind or is concerned about their home falling out of escrow and wants to take an extra step. It's great for a buyer who's going into a new home and wants to ensure that it's safe. It's also great for any homeowner that's just wants to, like I said, go the extra mile to ensure that their environment is safe for their family. So something that you can circulate to your clients, to your sphere, discuss with them this new offering, and just engage with them and speak to them about your new KW concierge program that you have access to. And so I see a few chats coming in. Let me see if there's some questions I can answer. Let's see.
Well, how does an agent start the process? They just reach out to you, customer service. How does this work?
Yeah, so it begins with an online submission. And I'm definitely happy. I know there's a lot of information to be shared about the program, so I'm happy to kind of expand on this at another time as well. If that
Yeah,
makes
so what we can do is, maybe have like a training, Zoom training, so that way we can go really deep, ask those questions. Because our next speaker is on the call already. So
Yeah.
good information, really appreciate it. Guys, just be on the lookout for the next Zoom training. And myself, Manny or Jennifer, we can answer any questions after the call, and really direct you to utilize the effectiveness of what we're dealing with, but more so the avenue to really promote and get more listings, guys. So thank you again for being on the call. Really appreciate you.
Thank
And
you.
we'll definitely do a follow-up with that. Okay?
Talk to you all soon. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Appreciate it. One thing that I forgot to mention, our broker, Kim Mosley, tomorrow at 11:30, she will have a contract class, and I believe she's going to be touching on the residential purchase agreement, more so right now with the COVID-19 situation, guys. Please stay tuned tomorrow at 11:30 with her to guide you and give you some insights, ideas, and how to approach the COVID-19 situation. Okay, so tomorrow, Thursday, 11:30 with Kim Mosley. All right, without further ado, Mr. Dennis Block, are you on the call? There you are. How are you, sir?
Hey, good to see you.
Likewise. Thank you again for being on the call. We've been getting so many questions in regards to what's going on. You're probably inundated with so many calls on what's going on with the state level, the county level, the city level, the courts on a minimum shutdown, tenants ordinance to stay. You probably are frustrated as well with what's going on, and wanted to bring you on this call again. So thank you, Dennis, for being on this call with us. So without further ado, Mr. Dennis Block from Dennis Block and Associates. He's an eviction attorney and does a lot of public speaking for a lot of real estate companies. So again, Dennis, thank you.
And thank you for having me. You're right. Everything that you just said really is what landlords and income property owners are facing with regard to this pandemic. Unfortunately, our politicians have seen fit to consider that the solution is to be put on the backs of landlords and income property owners. I have likened it to a situation where the government is conscripting landlords to become financial institutions with the requirement that they make interest-free loans from anywhere from 6 months to 1 year. And that's basically what's happening right now. No one is going to minimize the effect of the pandemic on the world, and certainly the United States and our state of California, but to create a situation where landlords are required to be the benefactors of the world clearly is not what our Constitution is allowing us, should have allowed us to do. So let's go over exactly what these laws are all about, who's promulgating these laws, and maybe at the end I've got a little bit of a solution as to what we should do. So first thing is that we start with the governor, Governor Newsom, who issued an emergency order at the end of March, and basically that order stated that eviction cases would be delayed for 3 months, and he allowed individual jurisdictions the right to make any eviction moratorium protections that they wanted to make. So with regard to the governor, there was, quote, no right to defer rent. All there was a slowdown of your ability to bring forth an eviction action. But of course, all of the municipalities, and there's probably over about 150 municipalities that have created their own rules regarding tenant eviction and the moratorium and deferment of the payment of rent. So let's take, for example, Los Angeles. Los Angeles is that if you have not paid the rent and it's causally connected to the COVID-19 epidemic, then the tenant is excused from paying the rent. It's not a rent-free, it's a deferment, and they have up to 1 year to pay the rent. And that's what I'm saying when I'm telling you that landlords are put into a situation where they're becoming financial institutions and requiring to make 1 year interest-free loans. It's insanity. Most of the other jurisdictions required or allowed tenants a 6 months buy in terms of having to pay it back. I know that West Hollywood and Los Angeles and now unincorporated areas of LA County are all requiring 1 year to pay back rent. So let's take, for example, that you had a tenant that didn't pay rent for the month of April and then May, and the pandemic was declared over by the governor as of June 1st. In that situation, those 2 months rent would literally be sitting there and the tenant would have no obligation to pay that rent until 1 year from when the pandemic was declared over. So that would be June 1st, 2021. Again, this is an interest-free loan. Again, most of the other municipalities, though, required only a 6 months deferment in rent, but in any way you slice it, what they should be is rent vouchers. If the government wants to be philanthropic, please don't do it on the backs of the landlords and income property owners. Let them issue rent vouchers in order that the tenants pay the rent through those vouchers. But to allow a landlord to not get his rent for 1 year is tantamount to insanity. So we've now gone through what the governor stated. Then we've gone through what all these municipalities have instituted. And then we turn our attentions to the third ring of this system, and that is the Judicial Council for the state of California. Most people have no idea what the Judicial Council of the state of California is. And what it is, it's an arm of the California Supreme Court that is empowered to create rules and regulations for the efficiency of our court systems. If you ever see a court form, usually it says on the bottom of it, approved by the Judicial Council. However, the Judicial Council doesn't make laws, at least that's not what I used to think, because now the Judicial Council has created laws with, in my mind, no authority to do so, but so they did. And those laws are as follows. Incredulously, if a tenant is not paying the rent, and again, all the other municipalities and even the governor's edict states that it has to be causally connected to the COVID-19 pandemic. If it's not causally connected, then you are free to file a lawsuit. So let's take, for example, a person who pays his rent but is on a pension and on Social Security. I took that case in this week, and then chose on April 1st not to pay the rent. Clearly that person didn't lose his job. Clearly this has nothing to do with the pandemic because his source of income hasn't changed at all. So under the municipalities, I'd be able to file a lawsuit unrestricted. Under the state of California, the order by our governor, I'd be able to file that lawsuit. Unfortunately, what we have with the Judicial Council is that they're saying that while I can file a lawsuit, that they will not issue me a summons. Well, a summons is part of every lawsuit. If I don't have a summons, it means I can't serve the tenant, which means that I can't proceed forward with the lawsuit. So the lawsuit is just stayed. Again, it has nothing to do with the pandemic, but our Judicial Council created emergency rules stating that they will not issue a summons unless it's dealing with health and safety. So if the person is yielding an axe in the common areas of the property or creating disturbances, yes, then on a special ex parte motion that I can file with the court, and trust me, we've been filing them, I can force a court to issue a summons so that I can move forward with the case. But where the Judicial Council has zero authority to do so, they have ordered the court through their emergency rulings not to issue a summons, which means I can't proceed forward with an eviction case. They also stated for those cases that are already in the stream, and we have so many that we've already filed, where we already have a summons issued and where the tenant has already been served. In that case, additional rules by the Judicial Council state that I can't take a default until the pandemic is over. If I have a trial date, trial dates are continued for an additional 60 days. And if I have a writ of possession, I can proceed forward with the sheriff's office. They will not issue a writ that I can bring to the sheriff's office for us to complete an eviction. So these are totally burdensome rules placed on the backs of landlords. But then, believe it or not, it gets worse. These rules will stay in place not until the governor just merely declares that the pandemic is over. They have added in an additional 90 days from when the governor declares that the pandemic is over, that these emergency rules will cease. So let's just do the math here. You've got a tenant that didn't pay rent for March, April, and May, and he's claiming, maybe rightfully so, he works in a restaurant and got laid off, that he has no ability to pay the rent. If you're talking about the city of Los Angeles, he would have 1 year from when the pandemic is declared over to repay that to the landlord. So let's pretend the governor declares that it's June 1st. So for March, April, and May, they're going to have until June 1st of 2021 to pay that back. But once the pandemic is over, at least as of June's rent, June 2020, July's rent, the tenant would have to pay. But let's pretend the tenant doesn't. So I have a tenant now who hasn't paid rent for March, April, and May, and chooses not to pay rent for the month of June. In that situation, I'd be able to serve the tenant with a 3-day notice. But you see, because of the Judicial Council, I would not be able to have a summons issued for 3 more months. So that would be June, July, and August. So if you're doing the math, if a tenant just chooses, I'm not paying, I didn't pay for March, April, and May, and I know you can't go forward with any eviction, so I'm not going to pay for June, July, and August. So now let's pretend that the 3 months is now passed, and now it is now September 1st. The landlord has not received rent for 6 months, and trust me, there will be thousands of cases in the state of California where this will occur. So now comes September 1st, and all landlords are unshackled. They can now file an eviction action and finally remove the tenant from the property. But let's think about it. How many landlords are going to be filing lawsuits on September 1? There will be thousands of lawsuits filed because that will be the first opportunity that landlords can do so. So what you're going to have is a court system that is so overburdened with a rush of filings that I predict that it will take at least an additional 6 months before you can finally get a case through the court system. So the math is very simple. The tenant's not going to pay rent from March of the year 2020, and it's not going to end for 1 year thereafter. Now, during this 1 year, when landlords have no protection by our federal government, no interest-free loans, they're going to not only not have to get any income coming in, but they're still going to be saddled with making things such as their mortgage payment. There's no ease on terms of property taxes. They're going to have to continue to pay that. And what happens if there's something wrong with the building? The tenants are going to complain that, in fact, that they need repairs. Is a landlord under an obligation, a legal obligation to make those repairs, being it minor repairs or major repairs? Yes. Where is the money going to come from? And by the way, is the landlord also going to have to pay for trash services and sewer services and water for these buildings? Of course he is. So you're going to see a situation where so many landlords are not going to be able to sustain the fact that they're not getting any rents in. Many landlords people think that landlords, of course, are just big corporations. That's not the case. Most of my clients are clients that have anywhere from 4 to 12 units and live in the building themselves in many cases. So you're going to see landlords one after another not being able to keep up, and these buildings are going to get foreclosed against. And all we have is the politicians that decided that all the weight shall fall upon the shoulders of landlords. And it's unconstitutional. There's no basis for that. But this is what we have, that Judicial Council emergency rules. They have no authority to do what they did, but that is what they did. And there's going to be lawsuits filed, but in the interim, our landlord's going to be able to keep their heads above water. So that's what we're faced with on a three-pronged attack on landlords, that landlords, again, are faced with the situation of having to take care of the populace, that the weight of this pandemic is all on our shoulders. So what can we do? I stated at the beginning of this that there is some things that we can do at this point in time, and certainly my law firm is doing so, and that is as follows. If in fact you know that the tenant is not withholding rent due to the pandemic, so again, that situation that I gave where the guy is on a pension and Social Security, there's no change in his economics. I have a case where I took in where a tenant rented a house in Beverly Hills. The house goes for $27,500 per month. The tenant made the first month's rent and then claimed that his job or his source of income ceased at that point in time. But what he didn't tell you was that confirmed he had $400,000 in a bank account. So on what basis is he trying to comply with the law and saying that it's COVID related when he does have the ability to pay the rent? He just chooses to preserve his capital versus the capital of his landlord. So that's a case just like the one with the pension, or any other case where you can establish that the tenant does have the ability to pay the rent. We're serving a 3-day notice and we're filing the lawsuit. I'm going to have a case number issued. I'll have a lawsuit issued. Now, you're correct, based on what I told you, that we're not going to be able to formally serve the tenant because there is no summons issued by the court. But it certainly doesn't prevent me from sending that lawsuit to the tenant with a letter. And the letter is going to tell the tenant that they're sued and there will be no forgiveness in rent, and we will pursue this to the end of time. And we are encouraging tenants to make a deal with their landlord. So we've seen in this type of a situation where a percentage of tenants, actually a healthy percentage of tenants, when they're been intimidated that they do have a lawsuit in their hand, even though I can't go forward with it, that at very minimum, what they will do is attempt to settle with their landlord. And maybe the landlord has to give up some money, but it's better to give up some money now and get 75, 80% of your rent than it is to possibly wait a year and go through an eviction process, go through the full process. The second advantage would be in a situation where the tenant totally ignores the lawsuit, totally ignores my letter, But sometimes tenants, what they'll do is they'll file an answer to the lawsuit. If they do file an answer to the lawsuit, because they got a lawsuit, so they think, well, gee, I have to answer it, that would be advantageous to the landlord, because in that situation, we'll be able to request a trial. And even though the trial will be delayed for 60 days, 60 days is much better than waiting until September before I'll be able to be in a position where I'll be able to request a trial date. However, let's take the situation where the lawsuit is filed and sent to the tenant with our letter. The tenant ignores the letter. The tenant doesn't file an answer. So now we're at best, assuming the pandemic is declared over on June 1st, we're basically in a holding pattern where I can't serve the tenant until September 1st. But in that situation, we've really gained an important advantage. And the reason is that on September 1st, you're going to see a floodgate of landlords filing lawsuit like you've never seen before, certainly like I've never seen before in my 43 years of representing landlords. And when you file a lawsuit, we're going to be faced with the courts that are overburdened. But the way it works is that the person who's filed first has more priority than a person with a higher case number. By us filing lawsuits in April, our case numbers are going to be much lower than those landlords who are filing in September. So once September rolls around, and we will have to wait till September, in our example here, our cases will go first. So by filing now, it certainly gives the landlords three advantages. Number one, the tenant might want to settle with you. Number two, the tenant might answer the lawsuit, so I'll be in court much quicker than anybody else. And number three, if nothing occurs, I'll still have a lower case number, so we'll be able to proceed forward with our case on the basis that we have more priority than a bunch of landlords filing in September. So if anybody wants to avail themselves of that, we can certainly assist that. I don't know if you can see my toll-free number behind us, 1-800-77-EVICT, that's EVICT, or you can catch me on my website, which is evict123.com, EVICT123.com, and we're certainly able to answer any questions that you might have. I don't know if the panel here, if any of the participants have any questions, if somebody wants to.
Yeah,
If there are, you can
we
feed
have
me some
we have
questions.
several questions for you. I know we're cutting it very close, so we'll leave it the next 10 minutes or so to conclude for our sales meeting with some questions. So we got a laundry of stuff here for you, Dennis. So one of the questions right now that I'm seeing is, let me go back. There was one that I thought was pretty interesting. Oh, yeah. What if a tenant files for bankruptcy? Can the landlord collect the rent?
Well, if a tenant files for bankruptcy, it stops all state court proceedings. So you wouldn't be able to proceed forward with the lawsuit. You'd have to first file a motion with the bankruptcy court for what they call relief from stay. That would allow you to proceed forward with an eviction. But again, what's the point? You really can't proceed forward with an eviction at this point in time. Again, that would be somewhat of an unusual situation. I would see where you'd have more landlords filing bankruptcy than tenants who are getting free rent.
Gotcha. Another question for you. This is a question. Dennis, medical work was pushed out of sublease. I had documents and photographs, everything that took place in the past month. She was more or less forced out from the living situation. Does she have any rights?
Not sure I understand the question.
She was, I guess, a medical worker who was pushed out of her sublease. Had documentation and photographs of everything that took place in the past. Yeah, it's a little vague. I'm not sure if she's.
Yeah, that one I would recommend that the author of that just call the office. I'll be able to ask some more questions. You know, we're finding cases, for example, where a tenant didn't pay rent for January and February. And of course, now the landlord comes to us and of course, March and April is owed. So on what basis would not paying rent for January and February have anything to do with the pandemic? So in that situation, what we're doing is to make sure that they can't use that as an excuse that that's the reason why they didn't pay. We're serving a 3-day notice in April, but just asking for January and February's rent and proceeding forward with the lawsuit, because there'll be no plausible argument that the tenant will be able to make that, hey, I didn't pay the rent in January because of the pandemic, which of course had nothing to do with it at that time.
Correct. Awesome, Dennis. I mean, there's obviously a lot of questions here. I know you were here in January. Most of you got the pamphlets of Dennis Block, but we will definitely provide you with his contact information, email, so that way if you have very specific questions, you can always reach his firm. We'll just leave one more question for you, Dennis, and then we'll conclude the sales meeting. One is there anyone filing a class action lawsuit to stop California from requiring landlords to take on the responsibility? And what is the status of the AB 828? Has it passed?
That was a double question, but the answer is you can't file a class action lawsuit against the government, but you can file a lawsuit to restrain any illegal act. And of course, what I believe the Judicial Council did is an illegal act. With regard to, I think it's AB 828, that's beyond insane. That's where you're not going to be able to evict a tenant, and you're going to have to go into court if the tenant wants to, and have a declared an issue where the tenant can say he only can pay 75% of his rent, and there'll be a judicial determination whether in fact rent should be reduced by 25%. This is beyond insane. This would definitely be unconstitutional. It would be against the contract clause of our Constitution, where all of a sudden your contract with your tenant can just be rewritten for no particular reason. So I don't see, and that's an Assemblyman Ting, may he rest in peace, and I hope he's listening to this, who came up with this assembly bill, but this has to be defeated. Anybody out there, please write your assemblyman or your state senator and say how this AB 828 needs to be defeated, that it's no sense and will only be subject to obviously a federal court lawsuit.
Beautiful. All right, Dennis, thank you so much for being on this call. Great wealth of information. Really appreciate it, guys. If you have any additional questions, we will post that information on his direct contact information, I should say, if you have any specific questions for Dennis and his associates. So Dennis, again, thank you so much. Stay healthy, stay safe, and we'll definitely be in touch.
Hey, thanks for having me. You have a great day.
Thank you. You too. All right, guys. So, wow, we were able to condense everything and complete it in just shy of an hour. So I want to thank you all for being on the call. Stay tuned for next Wednesday. I have a council member from the city of Carson. A council member, I'm not going to say who it is because I'm excited to bring him on our next sales meeting. He's councilman from the city of Carson next Wednesday to give you some information on what the city is doing to help us, what the city is doing to help the agents. And you know how notorious Carson is. So stay tuned next Wednesday at 12 o'clock with Councilman Blank from the city of Carson. Okay, guys, stay safe, stay healthy. Thank you so much for being on this call. The staff is here working around the clock, I should say, and helping you guys. Keep prospecting, keep working, don't stop. This will be over soon, guys. I promise you guys. And virtual high five to everyone, guys. Thank you again, okay? We'll see you guys next week. Bye-bye now.
Thanks, Simon.
Thank you, guys.